Hello and welcome to Six Part. Today I'm gonna continue the story What If Deku Destroyed His Multiversal Variants Part 2. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
It seemed as though it took years to see the entire story as the group stretched and unwinded after the demanding world they had just witnessed. As he stretched his back, Kirishima remarked, "Dude, that guy wasn't lying when he said it was long." Ochako shivered and said, "Yeah, but I will say this, I rather liked it, despite the scenes that made me queasy." Zero scratched his head and remarked, "I thought the ending was rushed and that I wanted a more nuanced conclusion." "Say, if that god guy was tired, what happens to us now?" Pony asked the group after some of them nodded. They were drawn to this and wanted to know if they would get a break or if someone else would take over. A few people asked themselves, "Well, if we do continue, who do you think will take over?" All Might asked. "That'd be me, Gold Bunny." Zyke reappeared with several boxes propped up on his arms, and everyone turned to watch him. With his strange demeanor, Mina was a little thrilled to see him again and said, "Whoa, what are you doing here?" Zyke laughed and said, "Well, Pinky, Z asked me to take over while he catches some Z's, because he was worn out from that last world." "You think you'll be able to do that?" Midnight asked, as some moaned at the cheesy joke but were more concerned with him returning. "Well, my boy did it, and was able to hold it up for that long, where most men need medication to keep that up," said Zyke. The guys laughed at his innuendo, enjoying it, while the girls blushed slightly. Zyke put the boxes down and said, "Anyway, before we watch the next world, I decided to answer some questions y'all may have about the last one." In the hopes of gaining clarity, everyone sighed with relief at the news that they would receive answers. Everyone liked that Zero was the first to ask, "Why was the ending so rushed?" "Oh, that's because that wasn't the original world's ending, so Z made a new one that could work," Zyke clarified. "What's that mean?" asked Recovery Girl. "Well, the original was a lot different." This perplexed everyone. Rather than being frightened and sympathetic, Bendy was actually malevolent, and after Henry met him, he became a real demon. Following a vicious pursuit, Henry screened the movie, and then Bendy vanished, leaving Henry in Joey's apartment. Zyke began to explain. The idea of Midoriya being in the same breathing space as his fiercest adversary made All Might pale. Joey then begins to complain about all the horrible things he has done to Henry and his employees. In order to demonstrate to everyone that the entire game is in a time loop, he sends Henry back into the studio. Each time Henry defeats Bendy, he is taken back to the beginning of his initial entry, which caused some discussion among the other gods about whether the ending was satisfactory or not because it left everything unanswered. As a result, some gods, including Z, created their own endings but weren't prepared to reveal them all at once, Zyke said. Astonished by the stark contrast between the original and the one they all saw, the group exchanged glances. Eri held up a hand and said, "But what happened after Izuku and Bendy left the room?" "Oh, that's where the magic happens, little Eri. Where everyone has a happy ending, where Henry sets everyone free, all the workers are transformed back into humans, and the Toons are all normal again. Then he brought the Toons home, where he and his wife, Linda, raised them as if they were his own children," Zyke said, feeling only at ease with their creator. The happy story that everyone was no longer suffering made many people smile. "Who was Linda, by the way?" Ochako inquired. "You, and me?" She stammered as her face flushed. "Yeah, in that world, you and Izuku, Henry are husband and wife with 2 boys and 1 girl, Zyke said, grinning. As some of the girls in her class congratulated her, Ochako blushed greatly upon hearing that. Hearing that her son had a lovely wife and kids made Inko very happy, and she was upset that she couldn't be there to spoil them. Momo said softly, "What are your thoughts on what Boris had to go through?" Zyke clenched his fist and yelled, "Are you shitting me? I'd take a bullet for the guy. No way am I letting that innocent wolf suffer like that again." A few were taken aback by his abruptly loud voice, but they all understood and followed his instructions. Zyke exclaimed, "Hey, speaking of him, heads up," as he suddenly threw the boxes he was carrying at each of them, who all swiftly caught it. Hearing a low rumbling inside, Mandalay asked, "What are these for?" as she lightly shot the box. Zyke said, "Open them up and see," and they all did, with some moving more slowly in case it was risky. They were all taken aback by what was inside, which delighted the youngest member of the group. "Plushies!" exclaimed Koda and Eri, clutching the brand new plush dolls of the well-known figures they had just seen. "Ah, she's so cute!" exclaimed Najire, clutching the Alice Angle plush. "These are so great!" exclaimed Krishima. Inko held up a Boris doll and said, What are you giving us these? The other two were beneath her arm. Well, I assumed that after seeing these worlds, you would want a memento of them for when you eventually depart. With a shrug, Zyke explained, there are rules, so after a new world, some items will appear in the box to remember it. That's why the previous worlds won't have anything to offer, mostly just guns and weapons that are too much for you all to handle. Even though the group was enjoying their new toys and he was largely ignored, he was heard. A.N. This will occur when a new world appears and will display the gifts when the next world loads. I was inspired by the story The Main Six Watch Death Battle, in which they receive gifts at the end of the episode. I realize this seems arbitrary, but given BATIM and its amazing merchandise, I felt that this was necessary. In any case, please let me know if there is anything you would like them to have, even though I apologize that the previous worlds cannot be suggested. Zyke said, enjoy, as he disappeared. Moving on, as the world plays, I'll be busy checking on Z. While everyone put their boxes away, some people, mostly the Boris doll, kept their +H's clothes. The new world loaded quickly. At first, there was only darkness and nothing else visible, just pure black. However, the sun soon rose, illuminating the whole region and revealing a brand new world that had never been seen before. The audience didn't know what to make of what they were seeing, so Kaminari broke the silence by asking, He asked, unsure of how to respond to what they were seeing, is it me, or does that place look a little, first? Present Mike scratched his bewildered head and asked, blocky? Yes, the entire world before them was composed of blocks and had a grassy terrain. The sun itself was a huge yellow block, as were the trees, plants, and clouds. Upon closer inspection, tiny creatures that were blocky like the rest of the world were going about their own business. The grass was being eaten by wolves, cows, pigs, chickens, and even small herds of sheep. Nedzu tilted his head and said, this is confusing. Katsuki questioned angrily, what's with all the blocky shit? Labara hummed, are those really cows? It's hard to tell with their square looks. As she stroked the Boris doll, Ochako questioned, wait, if everything's a block, does that mean Deku is as well? Some of the animals stopped when a lone figure passed by while they were doing what they wanted. Walking was a strong-built, somewhat average-height figure with a well-known face. The man had an aura or experience, dressed in a stretched cyan shirt, black boots, and faded blue pants. The man's face was rough, and his short, green-tipped hair was dirty. Holy crap, Deku's buff! Exclaimed Kirishima, who was astounded to see his friend so muscular. Seeing his protege walk with such strength made All Might smile, but he was also curious about what was going on in the world. With a perverted smile, Midnight exclaimed, my, what a body! Mina questioned, wait, why isn't he all blocky? Yeah, why is the rest of the world made of squares, yet he's all smooth? Asked Zero. Gazing at the rising sun and the animals staring at him, the unidentified man strolled across the field grinning broadly. He simply grinned and carried on walking toward his home, a location he knows is secure. However, he will only be in danger given his current speed and distance from it. He paused for a moment, inhaled deeply, then leaned down and assumed a running position. Suddenly, he launched himself into a full-fledged sprint, surpassing the speed of a professional runner and completing this and the next terrain in a matter of seconds. Whoa, he's really fast, Eri grinned. Wow, he might be faster than you, Lita. Ochako exclaimed, glancing at her friend with the engine legs. Lita was stunned by his friend's speed, which even beat his own and the scout from the first world. Is there anything you can't do, Midoriya? He thought in wonder. After running for hours, he eventually reached his home, but he stopped due to exhaustion. The words, man, nothing like a good run to get you hungry, came out of his mouth as he was a little sweaty, exhausted, and hungry. He took a loaf of bread out of his inventory, and after taking a few bites, it disappeared and he was fully recovered. As she and the others gazed at the gray box filled with random objects, Momo questioned, what is that? According to Zyke, that's his inventory, as he appeared out of nowhere, frightening them like Z does. Katsuki shouted, can you and that other guy stop doing that? Zyke retorted, make me. With the hope that there wouldn't be another altercation, Inko said, calm down, what did you say, Zyke? His inventory. Oh, this guy has the special ability to hold literally hundreds of items at once, great for survival, said Zyke. Aizawa questioned, is that his quirk or something? Zyke responded, don't assume they all have quirks. Not all worlds have them, including this one. After passing a few trees in the area, the man arrived at his home and exclaimed, hello, I missed you, with a joyful sigh. It was a big open area with fences, plants, trees of various kinds, and a small sheep farm. The house itself had a dozen torches, glass windows, 2 stories, and was constructed of solid stone. There was a broad lagoon behind it, a little hill to the side, and some caverns in the very side. Unexpectedly, many were impressed by the handcrafted glass and stone house. That is true for the rest of the world, though, as it is composed entirely of blocks, with the exception of Deku, Izuku, and Midoriya. As he hopped down from his staring position and reached the front yard door, the man grinned. He then entered to see red carpets, various rooms filled with unidentified and random machines, and more. He continued walking to the upper level, where he discovered his bed, a big chest, a furnace, and an empty armor stand. He approached the chest and opened it to reveal dozens of minerals inside an even bigger gray box than his own. His and the audience's attention was drawn to 64 stacks of gold, silver, coal, and diamonds. Even stacks of complete cubes of those minerals were present. Ochako exclaimed, "Holy crap, he's rich," as he showed off his precious minerals. As surprised as the others, Momo exclaimed, "My word, all that must be worth a small fortune. Man, does he carry all that stuff?" Mineta inquired. "Impossible, especially with that gold, a cubic foot weighing in at over 1,200 pounds. Lita replied. "And with them being turned into a solid block, that would take an industrial crane to carry." Nedzu continued. "Hey man, your tiny brain needs as much knowledge as sweats and explosions," Zyke teased, in response to Katsuki's complaint that someone should explain this without all the science jargon. "Anyway, the laws of physics here are very different than your own, the blocks being a prime example. In your world, good is much heavier, here, it's somewhat lighter and very weak," Zyke said. All Might questioned, but can he really carry all of that? Which caused Zyke to smile broadly. As everyone listened intently, Zyke remarked, "I'll try to put it into terms that make more sense, but trust me, he can do that and so much more. Deku here has 36 slots in his inventory, each able to hold up to 64 blocks, meaning that he can hold 2,304 blocks in total. If you take into account that every block weighs 42,509.53 pounds, Steve can lift up to 97,941,957.12 pounds, or 44,425,720 kilograms. Now, if we were to factor the idea of the weight of gold, a rough estimation would be around 5,101,436 pounds, or 2,313,972.45 kilograms, Zyke said in a loud voice. I don't know how to round that shit, so I use the term, rough estimation, very loosely. I literally just typed 1,200 times 42,509.53, and that came out to 51,011,436, so I wasn't sure if that would work. If you know a better answer, please let me know." Everyone was amazed at how effortlessly Deku carried all of that weight and how it didn't seem to restrain him. In the easiest way to say it, a rocket ship escaping the Earth's atmosphere takes about 4.5 million pounds of force, and Deku can carry over 5 million inches, Zyke joked. All Might had vomited a good deal of blood, Endeavor was pale, and Katsuki gaped. The others chose to watch the world because they were too shocked to really investigate that. After giving it a close inspection and adding coal, the man took several stacks of diamonds and walked away from the chest. He moved to the opposite side of his room and found himself standing in front of an odd box with 9 squares on top. When he touched it, a fresh gray screen appeared, and he began working, unsure if his theory would hold water. A new item appeared in the box above, and some diamonds were placed in a few squares where it had almost filled it. When he chose it, the table momentarily flashed, and a fresh piece of pure diamond dropped from the chest, which he joyfully grabbed. When he put it on, it was lighter than he had anticipated, which was to be expected given that it was made of crystal. "And made of diamond?" cried Mei as Powerloader questioned. "Wait, he can make armor too?" Aizawa questioned. "What kind of world is Midoriya living in?" "One where he can make crystal armor," replied Midnight. He had a ton of diamonds, so he might as well make a complete set after seeing how the first one worked. He put the helmet, boots, and even pants back on the table, but he was still unable to understand the reasoning behind it. But he made the world's greatest weapon, a diamond sword, using some sticks and a few extra diamonds. "My miser Midoriya looks elegant in that," Ioma remarked, his face glistening. Kirishima asked, "How strong do you think that sword is?" Momo replied, "I don't know, but that's defiantly sharp." Zyke whispered to her, "You know, why not make something out of diamond? It probably costs less calories than steel." His voice made her jump a little, but she gave his advice some thought, something she should take into account when her quirk is returned. He found the armor to be very easy to move in after a few punches and kicks, which will be useful when he goes hunting. He was reminded of those books he had discovered a long time ago, but there was room for improvement. He only ever found them in dungeon chests and never really understood their purpose. He then proceeded to another of his numerous rooms, where he discovered shelves full of books. They had a floating book in a red and black block, but that wasn't his intention. He mostly experimented with it using random objects, but he was never able to translate the strange language. His objective was the small chest next to it and what looked like an anvil on the side. He reached inside and took out several books that were surrounded by a glowing purple color. "What are those?" Kaminari inquired. "He should tell," Cementos replied, perplexed by the incessant inquiries. He opened one and asked aloud, "Protection?" After being shocked to see English on the first page. "Place book and selected item on anvil where the spell should activate," was one of the instructions he read underneath, explaining how to use the books. Therefore, it was a complete coincidence that he placed them in a chest next to an anvil, and it turned out to be very beneficial. He followed the instructions and activated the spell by inserting his chest piece into one slot. He held up his chest piece, which now shared the book's aura, after it was finished. He uttered the word, "Cool," as the effect of having the armor piece back on him made him feel safer. Grinning, he looked through the other books to see what else he could do with the spells. Koda exclaimed, "That's so cool, he can do magic." Inko grinned, relieved that her son was safe. "And something that can really help," she added. Present Mach, who had never seen magic like this, questioned, "What kind of magic requires an anvil to activate?" "Those world's magic," Mina uttered, perplexed as well. After 10 minutes, his whole armor was now glowing with power as he exclaimed, "Man, I should have used those books years ago." To his delight, by giving his boots feather falling, he will be able to fall more slowly and sustain less damage. With the Aqua Infinity feature on his helmet, he can spend more time underwater, which is very useful in the ocean. Aside from another protection book, his leggings had nothing special. Other books didn't help either. His ability to use 3 spells with his sword, however, made him even more lethal than before. He's given it Bane of Anthropoids, Sharpness, and a unique one called Unbreaking, which should make it last longer. Not every tool he creates will last forever. Eventually, they will deteriorate and break. Thus, a lot. Times. A few people agreed with Kaminari when she exclaimed, "Sweet God, that armor is too OP." Kendo responded, "Those spells are actually useful." With a faint croak, Suyu remarked, "I didn't think there'd be a spell that makes a person's helmet breathe underwater." Missing his peculiarity, Tetsu looked at his arm and remarked, "That sword can probably cut steel." He hummed as he considered his other weapon and wondered if there was anything else he could improve. He withdrew with a bow in his arms, which was his greatest weapon against any of the mobs, particularly the skeletons. As he perused the remaining spell books, 2 caught his attention, including one he had previously used. He read the other and asked, "Flame?" because it contained only one word, which made it confusing. It only stated that it would give his ammunition, that is, his arrows, a fire quality, without providing any further explanation. He shrugged, ready to try his new bow trick and making his bow more difficult to break. He pulled the string back and fired, only to be shocked when the arrow hit the wall and caught fire. He exclaimed, "Whoa!" As he examined the arrow more closely and felt its heat, it was very real. Miro exclaimed, "Awesome!" Shoto stated bluntly, "Huh, his arrows now have fire to do more damage." "Hey, imagine that, but in gauntlets, where they set fire when they hit something. Ooh, I gotta write that down." Mei exclaimed with delight. Concerned for her son, Inko questioned, "What does he fight to need that much deathly force?" He pocketed the arrow and thought about what to do next. He pulled the arrow carefully, and the flame went out as soon as he grabbed it. "Huh, it doesn't seem to harm me." "That's good to know," he told himself. He possessed the best weapons, the best armor, and a wealth of life experience. He defeated every monster that stood in his way, no matter how big or small. Shortly after entering another world, he defeated those hellish creatures and triumphed over it as well. "What is that?" asked Toru. "That's a nether portal, an entrance to a world similar to hell itself. Endless lava pits, sand made from those who died, monsters made of fire, and human-sized pigment that are zombies." Zyke answered with an eerie tone. "But don't worry, that weren't nothing your boy Deku can't handle," Zyke said in his normal voice as some of the group flinched in terror at the idea. Hearing that their friend could take care of everything and leave made them smile and calm. After giving this some thought, He recalled that he had discovered another portal, one that he had not created. He discovered a portal ready for him to enter, surrounded by mobs and buried far below ground. He didn't have the proper equipment and didn't know what was on the other side, so he didn't touch it. But now he had the best gear for climbing and digging, strong armor, and strong weapons. Time to get ready, he said as he left the room after giving his swords a few good swings and putting them away. He discovered ladders, dirt blocks, pearls, some stakes, a pumpkin just in case, and a few stacks of arrows in other rooms. All Might remarked, he's ready for whatever comes next. Jiro questioned, but why a pumpkin? As he examined his heavy boots, Zyke remarked, they're useful against one of the deadliest creatures in that world. Najire questioned, how's a fruit going to help against a monster? Zyke replied in a deep voice, here, nothing. There, it can save your life. He left his home and made his way to a nearby cave where a makeshift rail system was installed. Like everywhere else, he placed it there to find better minerals and return home more quickly. Additionally, he discovered that portal, which he intends to use upon arriving. Pulling a lever by the side, he hopped on and pushed himself forward by turning on the rail beneath the cart. As the cart slid through the caverns over open lava pits, water pools, and minerals he hadn't yet mined, he clung to it. The stronghold was the location he was aiming for after making many turns, he said. Built like a maze, it was a place full of monsters and had smooth brick, stone, and iron bars. Fortunately, he left hints about the postal location when he was ready during his previous visit. That's smart, a great tip for survivalists when they want to go somewhere dangerous but aren't well prepared yet, All Might commented. Recovery Girl stated, what worries me is what is on the other side of that portal he's going to. Yeah, and if it's like that other one, he should be ready for the worst, Ectoplasm replied. Recalling where his clues led and how they aided in his discovery, he followed them. Before long, he arrived at a quiet chamber with a stone brick stairway leading to his primary objective. He walked up it and gazed at the big square of pale yellow and green blocks with green centers. They all trembled at the thought of what might be inside the portal. There was an unknown danger there that few people could survive. Aizawa surprised his fellow educators by saying, please be safe, young Midoriya, out of concern for his pupil. To prepare himself for the journey he was about to take, he took a few deep breaths. In any case, he must be prepared for any new or old monsters that may surround him. He told himself, okay, you can do this, Common Steve, just do it. To get himself to persevere. The ring surrounding it glowed as he leapt into the air and dove straight in with a fierce war cry. FWOOSH, Inko said, his name's Steve? Zyke rubbed his hair and said, sorta. All Might then asked, what do you mean? Here's the thing. This Deku was just dropped into that world. No parents, no information on where he is, and no name. After a while, he just called himself Steve, and frankly, not even his world's creator knows his real name, said Zyke. Many people were devastated by this, but Inko, who was crying, was particularly sad that her son had to live alone in that world. Steve opened his eyes to find himself on a floating square of obsidian, the same material he had used to create that nether portal. In the distance, he noticed a massive floating island composed of a sand rock that he had never seen before. Steve told himself, I'm going to have to be careful here, as he peered over the side and saw an endless abyss. With care to avoid falling off, he began constructing a staircase to the larger island by removing his dirt blocks. As he made his way to the next island, everyone was on the edge of their seats, hoping he wouldn't fall. He uttered the words, finally, as he turned to face the entire island and was in a daze. He was fortunate enough to deal with each of the hundreds of the second deadliest monsters he had ever encountered one at a time. They had piercing purple eyes, were skinny, purple, and had strange particles all around them. They were also more than 2 feet taller than him. A few people shuddered when they saw them. What are those things? Mountain Lady inquired. Those are Endermen, the second deadliest beasts there, able to teleport and the only monster to pick up blocks like Steve. You look em in the eyes and they on you like zits on kids in puberty, Zyke said while shaking his head. He exhaled, all right, I took on hundreds of monsters before, these won't be such a problem. RURR. The beastly roar was so loud that the room shook, and Jiro had to shield her delicate ears from the bleeding. Katsuki screamed, what the fuck was that? With rage and, he'll never confess, fear. The largest monster he had ever seen, easily larger than the ghast in the nether, made him pale as he looked up. Its wingspan was about 200 feet, and its black-scaled main body was twice as long. It was a creature that loomed over the island itself, with purple eyes and gray spikes and claws. A freakin' dragon, He screamed or whispered, clearly terrified. He's gonna fight a dragon? Koda cried in terror, but you could hear excitement in his voice as everyone went pale at what Izuku would have to deal with. Inko cried and screamed. He can't fight that thing, he's too young to die. All Might had a grim expression, unsure of how to interpret his protégé's decision to face one of the most formidable mythological beings in history. From what he had heard, Midoriya had fared even better here than it had on his own world. Midoriya, you undoubtedly barely survived the many hardships you faced in that world. If there's one thing I know for sure, though, it's the same reason I picked you to be the world's next great hero. Demonstrate to the monster that you are a survivor and that you are capable of defeating him because you never give up, he thought hopefully. Oh sweet mercy, I'm in a place surrounded by Endermen and worst of all, there's a freaking dragon. Steve ducked in terror, holding his fast-thumping heart. I went to the Nether, but I had never encountered a dragon before. What was I thinking when I came here? In addition, how am I supposed to return home since I'm an island? He thought frantically. However, he had a thought when he concentrated intently on his task and his surroundings. From the moment he was born, he fought for his life and desired a safe haven, and when he finally realized that the dragon is the boss, if the portal was so secret and it brought him here, the person who sent those things there in the first place was most likely the largest and most formidable monster in this strange world. He had to fight every single day of his life because of it. The creature that had caused him so much trouble and almost killed him had now infuriated many. Kirishima shouted, "Show him who's boss, Midoriya," and Ochako yelled, "Kick his butt, Deku." He drew his sword and leapt onto the island, whistling loudly to warn all the creatures there of his approach. Every Enderman turned to face him, and the dragon above tilted its head down at the little human. As the hundreds of Endermen screamed, he prepared his sword and yelled, "Listen here, you overgrown lizard, I'm here to stop you after all you did to me and my world. This is payback for every monster that came after me, and all of the bullshit with the lava. Get ready to be my new leather jacket." He cursed, and some people gasped, but everyone was excited to watch him battle them all. Many of the others simply leaned in anticipation, but Tetsu and Kirishima were so excited that they vibrated in their seats. "Go Deku!" exclaimed Ochako. Suddenly, a series of still images showed Steve slashing at the group of Endermen with his sword. He killed 5 Endermen with a single blow, transforming them into tiny yellow and green balls known as Ender Pearls. He had a new shot that made him shoot arrows as fast as bullets, striking dragons and Endermen alike. In the subsequent one, he aimed an odd crystal at the dragon, which emitted beams. Mineta exclaimed, "Sweet, a montage," Kirishima remarked, a little let down. "Huh, I was expecting it to play the whole fight." "Still awesome," Eri exclaimed, raising her arms. There were only 2 fighters standing now that the photos were over. A dragon was slashed and bruised on one side, its whole body splattered with new arrows and wounds. Even though pools of purple blood were oozing from his jaw, he continued to look angry and furious at the other. He will once again demonstrate why he is in control of this world, or any other, even if it loses its one advantage. And a random person was not going to alter that in any way. Steve, with his sword clenched in front of him, was on the other side, exhausted, cut, bruised, burned, and terrified. Cracks and smoldering fragments covered his armor, but its enchantment kept it intact. Even though Steve was exhausted and covered in blood, he was determined to fight until this monster was defeated. He raised his sword in preparation for the last blow. They caused so much harm to one another that the audience was astounded, and they are still standing. The epic scene was so moving that Kirishima shed manly tears, resembling the last battle between fated rivals. Inko was breathing heavily due to her son's mutilated state, which brought back memories of his fight at the sports festival. Tokiyami exclaimed, nearly out of breath, "Holy shit, look at them." The two remained motionless and prepared for the next move for a while, simply staring into each other's eyes. Because they were both aware that the next move would determine the winner of this battle and put an end to it forever. The king of the mobs versus the ultimate survivor. Steve shouted, "R-A-H-H-H-H-H," as he charged, his sword aimed at the sky. "R-U-R-R." With a roar, the dragon charged the human on all fours. Ojiro shouted, "This is IT," and Inko responded, "I can't watch," while shielding her eyes. Steve and his sword, the dragon ready to fire, leapt into the air with a great leap. As the dragon shot, time seemed to slow down, but Steve used his sword to block the blast and knock it away. He turned it around as he swung, stabbing with all of his strength with the blade pointing downward. And now that time was moving at its normal pace. Steven had stabbed the dragon in the head with his diamond blade. Screech. Miro raised his fist in the air and exclaimed, "He did it!" Eri and Kota shared the excitement. "He beat him!" Mina exclaimed with delight as she gave Toru a hug, which was returned with an invisible glee. "Way to go, Midoriya!" exclaimed Kirishima. The dragon screamed as light blasted out of it in all directions, the blade now deep in the ground. Steve watched the dragon float as he used his sword to leap off the dying beast. The dragon gradually ascended higher in the sky, its entire body now bathed in light, and it soon started to explode. Boom! Steve waited for the flash to stop and he could see, which didn't take long, while shielding his eyes from it. He opened his eyes to see that the portal home was directly in front of him and that the dragon had vanished. However, he had one last thing to say before departing. He raised his sword to the sky and exclaimed, "I did it," as a tiny sparkle reflected off the exquisite blade. The screen turned black as the video came to an end. When it did, everyone applauded as they got up from their seats to watch the amazing battle between man and monster. They all agreed that it was one of the greatest worlds they had yet to see, though some people yelled, "Awesome," and others, "Amazing." The present Mike questioned, "I wonder what's next." Zyke screamed, "What up, people?" as he leapt into the room, frightening everyone. Katsuki screamed angrily, "The hell's wrong with you?" Toru questioned, What are you wearing?" They all noticed Katsuki's new clothes and general change in attitude, aside from his rage. "I Heart X Moss" was now displayed in bold letters on a generic Christmas sweater he wore. He wore a Santa cap, antlers, a red fake Noe on his real one, a dangling mistletoe, and fake elf ears on his head. His boots were now bright red with white soles, and his pants were patterned with large snowflakes. He carried a big brown bag on his back that was twice his size but didn't appear to be heavy. "Yeesh, what's got you all dressed up for?" Mina inquired, a little taken aback by his wife's wardrobe selection. "Oh, well, while time hasn't passed in y'all's world, but in mine and Z's, we're just days away from the winter holidays," Zyke laughed. Even though many were shocked by how much time had passed in other worlds, they were still taken aback by his extravagant attire. All Might asked, pointing to his clothing, "And your amount of clothes?" Which made him smile even more. "I'll be honest, I love this time of year. The traditions, the snow, the feeling in the air, but most of all, the TV specials and movies centered around the time." Zyke laughed broadly. Aizawa questioned, "But, don't you think that's a little excessive?" Zyke laughed and replied, "No, it's a family custom to dress like Christmas fools." Ojiro questioned, "Your family made that?" Zyke responded, "Yup, in fact, my family is just, if not more so, crazier than I am." The mere thought of it made some people go pale. Chio inquired, "And how many family members do you have?" Zyke replied, "Well, not including me, I'd say around 1,000. The room rumbled as Zyke put the bag down and said, "Now, me and my boy have a special gift for you all." David questioned, "Really, what?" Zyke replied, "Well, Z needs to get here first," as he started to search through the bag. Gran Torino asked, "What are you looking for?" Zyke replied, "The main event," as he was soon completely inside the bag. The bag tipped over after a little rustling, and Zyke emerged from it, pulling something as he went backwards. When he pulled out an extraordinarily long table filled with hundreds of Christmas foods and treats, the large group was intrigued. The large assortment of holiday-themed food and the fact that it all fit in one bag left everyone speechless. Zyke laughed and remarked, "There are a lot of random craps that have their own dimensions, which is one of the benefits of the multiverse." Zyke yelled, "Now, do I need to tell ya? Dig in," as most of the group hurried to the table. With so many different foods and sweets, they had a lot of options and thoroughly enjoyed it. As he ate some mashed potatoes, Kaminari exclaimed, "Man, this is good." Kirishima responded, "I know, right?" while munching on a turkey leg. While enjoying a cup of eggnog, Inko remarked, "I must say, this is delicious." All Might asked Zyke, who was munching on a cookie, if he had made this. Zyke grinned and said, "Nope, my ma did." Momo questioned, "Your mother made all of this?" Zyke surprised them by saying, "Well, what's here is just the leftovers from our family." FWOOSH. They all noticed a portal opening, and Zyke exclaimed, "Oh hey, my main man's here," as he hurried to it. Blood King asked, "Will he be as overdressed as you?" Zyke replied, "Nope, he isn't going that far," as Z entered. The fact that Z was dressed like a Christmas tree shocked everyone, including Zyke. The man himself had an unseen smile on his face and was decked out in lights, decorations, and tinsel. He also had a star on his head. Zyke exclaimed, "Z, you son of a gun, you said you wouldn't dress up this year. With a touch of surprise. Z shrugged and said, hey, your family invited me, so I thought I'd be crazy for night. Zyke and he gave each other a fist bump while the audience watched in mild fascination. About damn time you came. Zyke exclaimed. Zyke said in a low voice, so, you help them while I get our special guest. Leftovers again? Z asked, nodding as he took in the extensive spread. Yeah, and since we already gave a fair portion of it to the homeless, we got a lot left. And you don't eat, so might as well give it to them, Zyke said. As he ate some cornbread, Momona asked, where's he going? Without ever acknowledging that the food was amazing. They all agreed and carried on eating when Z said, for the time being, let's just enjoy this spread, he'll be back. After 20 minutes, Zero exclaimed, man, I'm stuffed, as the food caused his stomach to become a little bloated. Numerous others concurred, all of them full from the extensive spread and with little left over from the many people and their appetites. Z put the cup down and walked down, saying, Zyke'll be happy to hear that. The food was made to make you full. Z was standing at the sidelines, drinking chocolate milk with a peppermint aftertaste. As he held Eri, who was experiencing stomach pain, Miro inquired, by the way, where is Zyke? He should be back soon, Z said, glancing at a watch. Trying not to burp, Aizawa said, what was he doing anyway? Goddamn, what was in that ham? He thought. Z straightened his hat and said, he wanted to do something nice for you all, and decided to get a special guest for it. FWOOSH. With a broad smile, Zyke entered through a newly opened portal. Welp, he's ready, Zyke said, and Z nodded. Nedzu whipped his lip with a napkin and asked, who's he? Z replied, our special guest, and he moved to the other side of the portal. Too full to really gripe about who it might be, Katsuki said, oh great, who is it? Well, y'all deserve some sign of good faith from us, so I told Z that we should do this, and he agreed, which brings him in, said Zyke. As they heard faint footsteps coming from the portal, everyone looked at it, anxious to see what it might be. An average-height individual wearing a dark green jumpsuit, black leggings, and white gloves that reached his elbows emerged. He had a long piece on the back of his neck and bright red boots that had seen better days. However, his large, green and black afro, freckled, plain face, and metal mouthpiece were the most noticeable features. He also had a wide smile. With one hand on the back of his head, Izuku Midoriya stammered out, hey guys, with a slight wave. Almost everyone in the crowd yelled, Deku, Midoriya, Izu, and started swarming the young teen with hugs. The attention and displays of affection, mostly from the girls, left Izuku a flushed mess. Izu, I've been so worried. Inko exclaimed, clutching Izuku while tears streamed out of her eyes. Concerned for Deku's welfare, Ochako hurriedly said, Deku, how are you? Are you okay? You need anything? Izuku covered his face with his hands and exclaimed, I'm fine, Uraraka-san. He was red in the face. Relieved to see the original Izuku, Jiro remarked, man, I missed that jittery personality. Eri ran up to him and exclaimed, Deku. The teenager rushed to embrace her. Hey Eri, how are you? Izuku asked politely. Eri raised her arms and exclaimed, great, I love seeing you being a hero from other worlds. Shoto began, drawing everyone's attention, and asked doubtfully, how do we know you're the real Midoriya? Everyone became concerned and started to wonder if this was the Izuku they all knew from their world. Zyke smiled and remarked, oh relax, he's the real deal alright, straight out of his nap in your world. Oh thank God, I don't think I can handle more different versions of him, Mina said, to the relief of many. Izuku said, wait, what? All Might replied, oh yeah, did you explain to him what we're doing here? Well, all he told me was that you were watching different worlds, just not why, or who, Izuku responded. Zyke shrugged and the others agreed, saying, think of this as a good conversation starter, having not seen him in a while. All Might sat down and said, come young Midoriya, we have much to talk about. All Might, Inko, Ochako, Kota, and Eri sat on Izuku's lap, but the teenager didn't mind. Izuku gave the two kids a hug and started to explain, asking, so, what did I miss? After 10 minutes, Izuku expressed his shock at the actions of his friends, family, and professional heroes. It was so surreal to see and meet different versions of himself, but then, so was everything else. How did they perceive him as a villain, a survivor, and a different kind of mercenary? Given his own life decision to help others, that didn't sit well with him. It was strange to learn that you battle dragons, zombies, people wearing strange costumes, and a lot more. He jumped all over the room because he was so thrilled about the future world and how he is the best hero. When he learned about the world of Jack the Ripper and their beginnings, he nearly passed out. Though strange, Boris and the others experienced some grief during the one in which he was imprisoned in an animation studio. Although there wasn't much to explain, he was quite interested in the world in which he lives as a samurai. To sum up, though, it was shocking how much he does in both space and time. "Whoa!" Izuku exclaimed, genuinely stunned, while Koda and Eri chuckled at his startled expression. Nedzu remarked, "Yes, it's a lot to take in." Izuku recalled his pro self and asked, "Wait, what did my older self say?" "What?" Izuku asked, now concerned, as the group exchanged conflicted looks. As her son glanced over, Inko said, "Izuku. He told us about your quirk," she said quietly. "What?" Izuku exclaimed as he got to his feet, still cradling the kids. "He told you," he exclaimed. With a soothing tone, All Might said, "Yes, now calm down Midoriya, it's fine." "But you told me never to say a word," exclaimed Izuku. "I did, but around that time you made that quirk your own and had told everyone," All Might said sternly, nodding. "You explained that your friends didn't trust you for not sharing, so you told them." He told his classmates about his quirk after their trust in him was emphasized, which shocked Izuku once more. Everyone nodded when Izuku asked, "So, you all know?" Kendo replied, "Yes, but we won't tell anyone." Mina exclaimed, "Yup. Count on us to not say a word." Momo replied courteously, "Trust us, Midoriya." Izuku started crying because of his friend's generosity and was relieved that he was no longer concerned about keeping it a secret. Even those who haven't met him yet grinned at his teary face, missing his personality terribly. Melissa said, "Very different than his other selves," and her father nodded, not expecting such a unique individual. Gran Torino, not wanting the world to see, said with a slight smile, "He will do great things in his future." Labara asked the Greenette, "So, how long will you be here for?" Izuku responded, "I don't know, I guess until those gods decide." "And you guessed right," Zyke exclaimed, making Izuku jump once more as he appeared out of nowhere. "Can you stop that shit?" yelled Katsuki angrily. "Nah," Zyke replied. "We like doing it," Z added as he arrived, frightening even more. "We'll let you stay here until the end of the season, which for here should be a few hours," Z said. Zyke's statement, "After that, you're going home and they stay here to watch more," somewhat depressed them. Z's words, "But don't worry, we'll bring him back from time to time," restored their happiness. As he and Zyke started to depart, Z remarked, "So yeah, we'll leave for now, so enjoy yourselves for the time being." Zyke said, "Oh, almost forgot," as he was immediately behind Izuku, who leapt once more. He was taken aback when the insane teenager placed something on his head, causing him to sag slightly. Now that they had a clearer picture of what Zyke had done, some people exclaimed, "What the?" With his eyes fixed on the hanging plant in front of his face, Izuku questioned, "Is that a mistletoe?" "Yup. Good luck, buddy," Zyke exclaimed as he and Z vanished, leaving Izuku perplexed. Izuku asked the group, anyone know what that was about?" before pausing when he became aware of something. Every girl, with the exception of Inko, RG, and Eri, gazed at him with wide smiles, squinted eyes, and flushed faces. "Lucky bastard," was Minetta's irate comment as the girls started to creep toward Izuku, who fled in terror. Fearfully, Izuku stood up and said, GG guys, what's going on?" as the girls kept closing in. Death Arms laughed and said, "Good luck, kid." He seemed a little envious of the child's fame. Kaminari, who was envious of Izuku and the girls, remarked with bitter tears, "It's always the shy ones." Now leaning against a wall, Izuku was perspiring profusely while he stared into the girls' rapt attention. He turned redder than ever when Ochako, the closes, put her hands on his shoulders. Ochako said one thing, then leaned in, prepared to carry out a holiday custom. "Merry Christmas, Deku." As he and Z entered the room, Zyke asked the group, "So, how we all feelin'?" Death Arms replied, "Yeah, it's been a while since we could actually relax." Nedzu replied, "Must say, quite well." Kirishima, who was already missing his green-haired brother, added, "Plus, it was great seeing Midoriya again." Z jokingly said, "Yeah, bet all the girls liked that," as every girl except the obvious blushed at their actions. As he adjusted his gauntlets, Zyke remarked, "Lucky green-haired bastard," Mineta muttered under his breath, "Hey, I think he got the short end of that. Took me an hour to help him scrub all the lipstick marks off." Kamui Woods said, "I never thought I'd be jealous of a teenage boy," and his muscular friend agreed, causing the woman to blush even more. All Might remarked, It didn't bother me that much, although he was secretly swelled with pride for his pupil. As they were once again covered, Z said, "Anyway, ready for another world?" Everyone nodded. "All right, well, before we start, we're gonna have to shield Eri and Kota again," Z said. Still furious at the Greenets game, Endeavor said, "Oh great, what is it this time?" With a loud voice, Zyke exclaimed, "Dark and bodily humor, which you may want to be careful, Chio. This shit's about to get real." As she adjusted her glasses, RG proudly remarked, "I am a doctor after all, so I'm pretty sure I can handle it." Zyke shrugged and said, Just don't blame us if you cry, wet yourself, or puke." With the audience looking perplexed, Z said, "Oh, by the way, we got a new set of hands to help you guys and us." Inko asked, "Why would you need more help?" And Momo responded, "Yeah, aren't you gods?" Z clarified, "Besides, Zyke has other things to do with both another project and his own life." "He is, I'm not," Zyke said. All Might questioned, "All right, but who is it?" Zyke smiled and replied, "It's our new friend who, like many others, took pleasure in watching you watching Deku." Z reviewed a list and said, "Yeah, he's got some great ideas for you guys to watch." A nervous Toru asked, "Should we be worried?" Zyke replied, "Nah, he's great, just be warned when you meet him." They all became anxious once more as a result. "Why?" Kaminari asked, trying to calm himself. "Well," Z said, but was cut off when a portal opening on the opposite side of the room appeared. Z and Zyke wondered what shape he would take as everyone turned to watch what might emerge. They didn't have to wait long because the two divine beings were somewhat taken aback when the new figure appeared. In comparison to the other two, he looked so normal that the others were just shocked. He wore a black school jacket with a white undershirt and had brown hair and eyes, just like any other adolescent of average height. Given his tan skin, black pants, and school shoes, he appeared to be an ordinary adolescent. Imagine high school DxD's Issei, but he's not a pervert. Zyke scratched his bewildered head and remarked, "Huh, never thought I'd see you as Issei man." I like it," the newcomer said, frightening a few with the soft yet uncanny echo in his voice. Z introduced our friend, the god Gloster, saying, "Cool, anyway, everyone, meet the god Gloster." The man grinned broadly as he looked around the group. "It's great to meet you all," Gloster said, bowing slightly. Mina said, "What was Zyke talking about? You looking like another person?" Nedzu replied, "Nice to meet you as well." Gloster clarified, "Oh, well, this isn't my real form. I chose the look of another popular character." "The character in mind is known for being incredibly powerful and hangs out with demons," said Zyke. "There must be more to it than that." Many were shocked to hear that and wondered why he had chosen that form. "Well, the original guy is actually a huge pervert, like Mineta Bad," Gloster said, causing many to shiver. Is that all?" asked a nervous Kendo. Many people calmed down when Gloster said, "But don't worry, I'm not." Mineta complained, "I'm not that bad." Blood King raised an eyebrow and said, "Why'd you choose that form instead of your real one?" "We gods frequently select various forms to investigate the vast realities. Everyone has different reasons for doing that, but for me, it's just for fun," Gloster grinned. Zyke poked a thumb at the hooded teenager, who nodded, and said, "Yeah, like how Z looks like a celestial sapien." Gloster surprised them by explaining, "It's basically the alien version of a god." "A what?" Kaminari asked. As he prepared to depart, Zyke remarked, "Okay, now that everyone has been introduced, I'd better be goin'." Zyke exclaimed, "Oh, wait a minute," before abruptly backflipping in midair and performing several flips before landing next to an astonished Ochako. Zyke held out his hand and said, "Book please." Ochako said, "Huh, oh right," as she took the book from her lap. Zyke clarified, "Yeah, should have told Z that this is more for traveling the multiverse, not viewing it." She acknowledged, "I honestly forgot about this." Z complained, "You should put that on the first page then." Zyke said, "Hey, blame my publisher, said it wasn't important," while putting the book in his pocket. Ochako exclaimed, "Wait, you made the book?" Zyke smiled as he walked away. "Damn right, I did," Zyke replied. As the world began, Zyke said, "Good luck, everyone, enjoy the world, and ask Gloster for help or if you have questions," Z said. A wheelchair-bound Endeavor and a seriously injured Katsuki rush over the hill as explosions come from behind the hillside. As he attempted to get around the man in the chair, Katsuki yelled, "Move Cyclops, move," as the tense music started. Katsuki complained, "Oh hell, another one of these." Endeavor angrily questioned, "Why am I in a wheelchair?" Shoto muttered to himself, Is it strange that I'm enjoying that sight? Gloucester replied, not at all. Cut to Scout and Endeavor running from a flurry of rockets. Katsuki yelled, come on, almost, ow, as he was flung sideways by one of the rockets, but Endeavor persisted in spite of his injured teammate. Endeavor shouted, good luck, laddie, as he wheeled off. Hey, don't blame me, it's another world. Katsuki yelled at the pro hero, you damn traitor. Endeavor responded. They don't change even in different worlds, All Might remarked, perspiring. Ear. Arg. Is a painful groan as we cut to Katsuki lying on the ground, trying to get to his knees but collapsing. Before he knows it, he hears a whistling sound and turns to see 3 rockets arcing down towards Katsuki. Whoa. What the F? In a long shot of the explosion, Katsuki is hurled in the direction of the camera, screaming and flailing. You. A dove is startled as Katsuki crashes face first into a pane of glass in the foreground, shattering it. Weakly, he said, medic. Meet the medic card shows up. As she adjusted her glasses, RG remarked, huh, I guess that's what Zyke meant when I'd have an issue with this world. Ectoplasm remarked, huh, I assume in this one he's a doctor? Gloucester responded uneasily, for the most part. Jiro added, but not so much for him asking for help. Zero said, leave it to Bakugo to survive 3 rockets to the face. Cut to the interior of the structure. The camera turns right and tilts down as Katsuki slides out the window. A loud voice exclaimed, oh ho no more, while another voice attempted to clarify. An older man with a German accent began to speak, saying, wait, it gets better. Ochako exclaimed, hey, that's Deku's voice. Yuga, with a twinkle, added, and now German. Present Mike questioned, how many different accents will he have in these universes? In the background, a little heart-to-heart is hardly audible. As the camera keeps turning and tilting, it shows Medic holding All Might's heart in his hand while they are having a casual conversation. All Might is awake and open. The beam from a prototype Medi gun atop an overhead rig is directed at All Might. Most of the audience screamed in shock and terror. What the hell? All Might had vomited blood in shock. Inko had fainted, and RG was paler than a ghost. Kirishima cried out, why is All Might's chest open? Mei yelled, is that his heart? RG exclaimed, her surprise coming to an end, why is he still conscious during surgery? Where'd he go to medical school? All Might gripped his chest, where his scar is, and exclaimed, how am I so calm during this? Medic concluded his story by saying, when the patient woke up, his skeleton was missing, and the doctor was never heard from again. Before he burst out laughing. After a brief pause, All Might laughs once more while slamming his palm against a tray of surgical instruments beside him. The statement, anyway, that's how I lost my medical license, hey, makes All Might appear extremely worried. Ms. Joke asked, unsure if she wanted to hear the response, what the hell kind of punchline is that? He doesn't have a medical license, he shouldn't be anywhere near that surgery table. Yelled RG. With everyone staring at him, Kaminari questioned, wait, how could that patient wake up without a skeleton in the first place? With a voice full of bewilderment and rage at the Sparky teen's foolishness, Jiro exclaimed, seriously, that's what you're asking after seeing that? Believe me when I say that won't be the weirdest question to be asked during this, said Gloucester. Archimedes. No, exclaims the doctor as a dove emerges from All Might's stomach, startling both him and his patient. It's filthy in there, he exclaims, disgusted. Seeing the little bird pop out of his chest and the casual way his student handled the situation made All Might sick. Ahem. Sato looked over at Tokiyami and gave him a stern look. How can he say that when birds literally eat garbage? Sato asked. He argued, oh, and not all birds do. Dark Shadow retorted angrily, Birds. Medic joked, chuckling lightly, while All Might looks at Medic with mild surprise. Cut to a tray with a mechanical heart device. On a tiny charge meter, the word Uber appears. With the device in one hand and the heart in the other, Medic grasps it. As he inserts the device into All Might's heart and places it under the Medigun's beam, Medic explains. Now, most hearts couldn't withstand this voltage, but he goes on, I'm fairly certain your heart, until. Pop. A tiny fragment of All Might's heart bursts, toppling Archimedes from his perch with 2 other doves. As All Might passed out, Lita said, I'm going to be sick. The picture of his heart literally exploding is unsettling. Shoji exclaimed, what in the name of God is he doing? Gloucester responded, his job, while the others stared at him. With All Might in the background, Cut back to medic. What was that noise? All Might asked. Initially taken aback, the medic composed himself as he removed All Might's heart's remnants nonchalantly from the Uber apparatus. The medic said, "The sound of progress, my friend," while opening a refrigerator that held a few beers, a sandwich, and multiple hearts. The term, Mega Baboon, refers to one heart that is abnormally large. The medic says, "Ah, perfect," and reaches for the baboon's heart, exposing Aizawa's severed head in the refrigerator's back, which is apparently powered by a battery. The severed head yelled, "Kill me." The medic replied, later, as he shut the refrigerator door. Mountain Lady exclaimed, "How is he still alive?" as Aizawa appeared paler than usual and had a hand over his neck in terror. David held Melissa close and said, "What kind of world is this?" Melissa whimpered, "I'm scared." Cut to the medic standing next to the heavy, holding the Uber device in each hand in the baboon heart. As he inserted the device into the heart, medic exclaimed, "Where was I? Ah, there we go." Cut to the medic in front of the Medibeam, holding the big heart. As the heart begins to beat, the medic chants, come on," and begins to laugh uncontrollably as the heart begins to flash irregularly. All Might laughs uneasily, fearing that the heart will burst, and the heart glows red. Many flinched back in terror, believing that it would happen and not being ready for it to do so. Cuts to the device's Uber meter reaching full. Cut to medic, who is squinting and tilting his head away, as though anticipating a heart attack, and who has stopped laughing. For a moment, it returns to the perched doves. The two doves on either side of Archimedes shuffle away from where he was standing when he was struck earlier, and Archimedes has returned to his place on the perch, covered in blood. The ubercharged texture, a vivid, metallic red, overlays the heart after it stabilizes and stops glowing. As he inserts the heart into All Might's exposed chest, the medic remarks, "Oh, that looks good." The medic praised his work and remarked, "Very nice there," while All Might gazed unevenly at the heart protruding from him. All Might asked in a worried tone, "Should I be awake for this?" Argie's face flushed as she screamed, "No, no one should be still conscious when they're getting open heart surgery, especially by him." Miro, unsure of how to react after witnessing his friend so readily dismember All Might, questioned, "Why is he like this?" The medic chuckles and adjusts his glasses, saying, "Ah hey. Well, no, hey. But as long as you are, could you hold your rib cage open a bit?" asked the man. While medic inserts the heart, All Might shifts his hand as though to reposition his rib cage. "I can't seem." Crack. A crack is heard, and the camera pans to All Might's face as he screams in agony. Cuts to All Might demonstrating a broken rib to medic. Both give it a cautious look. "I'm going to throw up," Midnight said, clutching her stomach as All Might vomited more blood and his skin turned yellow. As he takes the rib from All Might and pinches his cheek, the medic jokes, "Oh, don't be such a baby. Ribs grow back," he exclaims joyfully. "No they don't," medic says in a whisper to the dove perched atop the Medigun after tossing the rib aside. RG exclaimed incredulously, "How crazy is he to believe bones grow back? He was a certified doctor, why would he say that?" Najire turned away and remarked, "I doubt he cares." Archimedes is shown cocking his head and taking off. Medic raises the power and swings the Medigun toward the open All Might. As if by magic, the Medigun fixes the All Might completely, even mending and stitching his clothing. All Might patted his closed chest and took a deep breath, impressed. "What happens now?" he asked. All Might struggles a little as medic helps him up. "Now?" medic asked, laughing a little, "Let's go practice medicine." "I'm amazed that gun can easily heal that opening, and his clothes," a worried powerloader said. "That doesn't sound good," May exclaimed. "That's the med gun, a fantastic piece of technology that can heal any wound, big or small. As long as the person has a bit of life left in them, they can be brought back from the dead. Even if the wound has been there for a while, a few seconds under that, it will be as it had never left," explained Gloucester. The news shocked everyone, and All Might wondered if that would help him with his own wound. The scene cuts to medic donning his coat, gloves, and the Medigun prototype, later known as the Quick Fix, plays. The medic and his doves are shown as a door with the red cross opens. Mina, who was impressed, gave a little golf clap and remarked, "I'll say this much, that was an epic entrance." An open palm is used to clap with 2 fingers at that point. Nana is ready as All Might rushes past medic. The scene cuts to a battlefield outside of medic's office, where Powerloader and May are hiding behind cover. Katsuki is hurt on the ground, and Endeavor, who is wheelchair bound, is wheeling wildly in the direction of the medic. After shouting, "Medic, Endeavor is blown from his wheelchair by multiple rockets and lands face first on the ground in front of Medic. Medic grimaces, flips a switch on the quick fix, and shoves his glasses up his nose. Still furious, RG questioned, "What's that mean?" Gloucester hummed, "What he was doing in the tent was just to make sure All Might doesn't bleed out or die, here, for when he wants his teammates to heal quicker to fight." As a healing beam is directed at the Endeavor, with his cast broken off and his legs functioning and fully recovered, the music gets louder. After giving the Medic a nod, Endeavor grabs his sticky bomb launcher and makes his way back to the battlefield. After that, Medic uses the quick fix on Katsuki, repairing him as well and even giving his missing tooth a sparkling restoration. Except for Katsuki, who was upset because he didn't want Deku's assistance. Everyone thought, "That's fake." Full of energy, Katsuki jumps to his feet and exclaims, "Yeah," before grabbing his bat out of the air and running away. Woohoo! He cheers. When the Katsuki runs past, All Might hides behind a red truck and even hits a suited Nomu with his bag. "Oh yeah," he yelled as he continued to run. Kirishima told his friend, who detested being compared to Deku, "You kinda act like the scout in this one, dude. Why must Deku irritate me so much if it's not one thing, it's another?" he thought resentfully. The scene cuts to a huge group of Nomu approaching over the hill's crest while brandishing heavy weapons ranging from shotguns to RPGs. To get the Medic's attention, All Might yelled, "Doctor, are you sure this will work?" he asked. Music calms. Medic is shown laughing and grinning broadly. "Ha ha ha, I have no idea," he exclaimed. Ojiro mockingly remarked, "Oh great, you fill us with such good faith." Toru questioned All Might, "Why would you trust him to begin with?" "I don't know, maybe he has a plan?" All Might said, trying to calm his nerves while perspiring profusely. The voltmeter meter reaches full, and a panel illuminates when Medic flips a switch. The music swells once more as the words, "Ubercharge ready," appear on the panel. The power in Medic's backpack begins to hum. As soon as the All Might emerges from his cover, he shoots him with the quick fix. All Might exclaimed, "Ayah," as his Mega Baboon heart began to beat quickly. The scene then cut back to heavy glowing with Ubercharge power. Ha ha. Under rocket fire, Medic and the Ubercharged All Might move forward, All Might giggling with delight. While All Might glows with power and dodges rocket volleys, Powerloader, brandishing the Frontier Justice, and May, brandishing the sniper rifle, look on in confusion. "I am bulletproof," is cut back to All Might, who is still moving forward. Everyone was giving speeches about the new implant and the certain power and aura that All Might now possessed. "What exactly did it do?" Momo inquired. "That's Ubercharge, a certain feature to what Izuku put on All Might's new heart. When activated, for a short time, those enter a state where they're immune to all damage. With that, their attack buffs are doubled," he continued. An excited May exclaimed, "Where can I get these blueprints?" Gloucester replied, "You'll have to wait until Zyke gets here for them," which caused the pinkhead to look down. All Might continues to move, swiftly mowing down Nomu after Nomu until they are all dead. Music crescendos as Medic and All Might ascend the stack of Nomus and a flock of doves soars overhead. Music starts to play as the final title card appears. Mina yelled, "Again with the epic stuff." Katsuki yelled, "It still doesn't make up for how batshit insane he is." A waiting room is shown. While the rest of the team is engaged in activities to kill time, the camera moves over them. May is sleeping, Endeavor is drinking from his bottle. Shoto is reading and flicking a lighter, Powerloader is strumming his guitar, Aizawa is examining his ticket, and Lita is standing at attention. The Medica voice said, "That looks good, very nice there." "Yes," from beyond the doors. A ding is heard as the "now serving" sign changes to number 2, and Katsuki exclaimed, "Hey, thanks Doc," from inside. Everybody in the waiting area is staring at the door. With his chest glowing, Katsuki emerges from the operating room. "Did Bakugo just say, thanks?" exclaimed Mineta, leaving Katsuki and everyone else speechless. "I'll die before I thank Deku." Katsuki screamed, tapping the table with his fists. With his chest glowing a familiar shade, a valiant Katsuki exclaimed, "Awaha, man. You would not believe how much this hurts," as he emerged. Katsuki looks down in terror as his chest moves in response to muffled dove coos. As the screen went black, Medic's worried voice called out from the lab, "Archimedes?" The sight of a living animal inside his chest made Katsuki and a few others go pale. "Shitty Deku. You better take that out," Katsuki screamed. shivering at the thought of an animal residing inside her. Mina questioned, what happened to him to make him this crazy? Astounded by the technology at his disposal, Blood King remarked, well, whatever it is, we can't complain with those results. RG yelled angrily, I still think he should be banned from medicine altogether. Kaminari pleaded with Z, please God tell me the next world is a lot less crazy. Depends, you mean me or your world's god? Z joked, causing many to perspire. Don't worry, this is suitable for all audiences, Z said, glancing at his nearly empty list. Gloucester shook his head and remarked, it's unbelievable that you said that while maintaining a straight face. The others stared at Z as he said, hey, blame those people in charge of this universe, they have one hell of a rocky track record. Koda asked, what is it anyway? Z responded, well, to start, it revolves around speed, which piqued some curiosity. To her friend with the engine leg, Ochako exclaimed, hey, hear that Lita, that's your speciality. Lita calmly stated, I do think this will be interesting, but his shaky body and eager smile betrayed him. Powerloader sat beside May, who was occupied with studying the blueprints, and asked, what exactly are we to expect? Gloucester described Deku as a very confident and cocky person, but the audience didn't believe him. Bullshit, said Katsuki, you're really saying that after seeing different worlds he's been just that? Z asked, perplexed by the teen's obstinacy. While you're working on that list, why don't you start the new world? Gloucester suggested. All right, good luck, man, Z said as he departed. A huge, picturesque open field with towering hills and bright green grass in the middle of nowhere is shown when the screen opens. Everything was quiet until a little trail of smoke flowed by in an unidentified blur that vanished in an instant. FWOOOSH, Koda exclaimed. Whoa, what was that? May rubbed her eyes and replied, I don't know, it's too fast to see. For something to move that fast that can't be seen by Hatsume-san's exceptional must be around the speed of sound. Nedzu said. Gloucester asked, did you rhyme on purpose? Nedzu calmly replied, yes. Mina asked, perplexed, and he's our principal how? The unidentified figure could be seen zigzagging across the landscape at a difficult-to-follow pace in a close-up. By zooming in, it became clear who was running at such a breakneck pace. He was a male teenager who was about Lita's height, or slightly average. He was wearing blue pants with the sleeves pulled over his ankles, a white undershirt, and a grayish-blue, sleeveless hoodie. He was wearing red and white running shoes, white gloves, and 2 enormous gold rings that hung from his pants. He had 2 pointed ears and bright, spiky blue hair that resembled hedgehog quills. Consider this if you like. I really thought it was good. If you would rather see him in a different form or in his original form, that's okay. This artwork isn't mine. Deku, Midoriya, Izuku, exclaimed everyone around the fast-moving teenager, with the exception of Gloucester. Kirishima exclaimed, holy crap, look at him go. Momo added, he must be moving faster than the speed of sound. To their further surprise, Gloucester added, he's actually moving faster than that. David questioned, how is he moving that fast, is it a quirk? Gloucester replied, born with it, no quirk added, which made Lita friendly. He continued for several kilometers, passing through a lake, a rocky plateau, and trees before coming to a stop atop a tall rock pillar. Where is everyone? He asked aloud as he looked around him and furrowed his brow in bewildered rage. Normally, hundreds of tiny woodland animals are flying or running around, but nothing is there. In his world, small creatures, mainly rabbits and birds, were seen everywhere, Gloucester explained, with some people anxious about what might happen to them. What's he mean exactly? Miro asked. Izuku chose to keep searching because he was perplexed. Come out little guys, where are you? He cried as he ran for miles. Izuku was concerned when, after a few minutes, he had not discovered anything. Okay, now I'm scared, he said. A crash. When Izuku heard that, the ground trembled a little. What the? He asked, approaching the possible source. Why is it whenever people hear trouble, instead of leaving, they go towards it? Kaminari inquired. Zero said, yeah, what's up with that? Gloucester responded, plot development, which partially addressed their query. Lita remarked, his body trembling with jealousy, plus, with that speed, it shouldn't be that much of an issue for him. Izuku was shocked to see what was on the other side when he peeked through the tree line. There were tiny, round-bodied, red and black robots everywhere that resembled faces. They were all engaged in various activities, such as digging, chopping down trees, or other things. Izuku noticed that some of them were catching and bagging squirrels, rabbits, and small birds. When Koda yelled, "Get them Midoriya!" many gasped and cheered in response. Izuku made his presence known by yelling, "Hey, let them go," which caused all of the robots to halt their work. Their hands changed into tiny blasters as they all turned to face Izuku, and their eyes flashed red. "Whoa, hey, watch it, can't catch me," Izuku exclaimed before starting to run for his life. "Huh?" he asked. The boys started to advance, making a greater effort to strike the swiftly moving hedgehog, but they were unsuccessful. Koda exclaimed, "Whoa, look at him go," Eri yelled, "Go Deku." "Well, they're excited," said a beaming Inko. Then Izuku rolled into a fast spinning ball and shot off like a bullet, shouting, "All right, that's enough." In the blink of an eye, we are all destroyed because his quick move was too much for the robots to handle. Izuku then uncurled up and looked at the demolished robots, but he also noticed something else. Other versions of small animals shook off the metal and bits that were on them, coming from the destroyed bots. "Wait, why were they inside them?" replied Endeavor. The robot's creator had simplified his robots to have an easily accessible power source. Each creature can power either those small machines, or mechs big enough to topple buildings. Gloucester responded. Even though it appeared to be effective, many people gasped when they realized that someone would be so callous as to abuse helpless animals. Ochako exclaimed, "What kind of monster would do that to such cute animals?" Gloucester responded, "A very evil man." Izuku questioned, "Wait a minute, are they all filled with you guys?" As the tiny animals nodded in alarm. As he walked away, looking for more bots, Izuku nodded before discovering something unbelievable. A tiny base the size of a small moon was tethered to the ground by enormous chains. When Izuku recalled what had happened to the little animals, his face conveyed his extreme shock while simultaneously fortifying himself. The enormous base left everyone stunned and unsure of how to describe its immense size. May exclaimed, "How can someone even build that?" Gloucester responded, "A lot of resources and downtime." A few people ignored Mineta when she said, "Hold, does that thing look familiar to anyone?" Mainly because they were shocked. Izuku ran toward a tall rock spire and stood atop it, staring at the ramp at its very end with a stern expression. Izuku smiled as he leapt to the ground, assuming his curled shape and shooting high into the air, even causing a rift in the lake next to it. Power Loader exclaimed, "Whistle asterisk, he just turned himself into a small rocket." Gloucester added, "Wouldn't be the last time he does that." Shoto frantically exclaimed, "How can someone handle that much speed?" With little emotion. Feeling the wind in his clothes and quills, Izuku was flying through the air grinning broadly. Izuku quickly landed on one of the chain links and started sprinting in the direction of the enormous ship. As he ran in, his rapidly dwindling form is seen in a zoom out, with the screen turning black at the end. Despite its shortness, it was nice to watch, RG said with a smile as a few people applauded the world. "Damn right it was." RG screamed angrily as Gloucester said. "Way better than the previous one, huh?" Still, it was impressive at how fast Midoriya can go in this. "What's his maximum speed?" asked Lita. Some have conjectured his actual top speed, which is still in beta, even though it has never been explicitly stated. Gloucester clarified, but the most accurate estimate would be around 200 billion miles per hour, as the room fell silent. Thump. Everyone turned to see that Lita had passed out, and many were alarmed by his response. "Oh, I thought that would have happened sooner," Gloucester grinned. With a joyful tone, Z asked the group, "So, is everyone ready?" Ochako responded, "Yeah, but you happy again?" Some were taken aback when Z remarked, "Oh yeah, see, what I'm doing here is actually very popular with other gods." All Might questioned, "Really?" Gloucester replied, "Yeah, it's surprising on how many times this has been viewed by other gods, including myself." Z held a small phone and said, "Yeah, and I even made a system that tells me how many times that has happened." With all eyes on him, Endeavor said, "Well, how many times have we been watched?" "Well, it's not uncommon for some to rematch your reactions, so the closest estimation is around 14,000 times, and it's still rising," said Z. Hearing that, particularly the part about being rematched solely for reactions, shocked everyone. Fui. The sound of a party noisemaker startled everyone, and they all turned to see Zyke had just arrived. "Let's celebrate," he exclaimed, holding up wine glasses and a bottle of champagne while sporting a party hat. Zyke raised a glass in the air and exclaimed, "Cheers to the story," before passing one to Z, Gloucester, and each adult present. Zyke threw away his glass and began downing the champagne straight from the bottle, while the others followed suit, albeit bewildered. Inko worriedly said, "Well, it's nice to see you again, Zyke, but aren't you a little young to be drinking?" Before they started laughing, Z and Zyke glanced at her, then at one another, and finally back at her. Zyke dropped the bottle and began clinging to Z while he held his sides as they burst out laughing. The two paused their laughter long enough to respond to Ms. Joke's question, what's the joke? Zyke asked, ah ha ha, man. Well, how old do you think I am? David was unsure of his response and replied, I don't know, 16, 17? Zyke laughed so hard at this that he fell and clung to his sides for dear life, leaving everyone looking confused. Not hearing the potential joke, Ms. Joke screamed, again, where's the joke? Gran Torino said, care to explain? Z, who found the entire situation hilarious, replied, well, remember when I have you that book? Z said, yes, and remember the first question you asked it and what it answered? Ochako said, the one Zyke took back? Ochako asked, perplexed. Yeah, oh yeah, it said that he was the oldest mortal in the multiverse? Gazing at a still laughing Zyke, Z remarked, yeah, well, it's fairly accurate. Man, I haven't seen him laugh this much since someone asked if he was rich, Z said. Zyke blurted out, Stop, stop, I'm gonna pee myself. Ah ha 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 ha. As his face began to flush. When Zero asked, yeesh, how old is he? Zyke finally stopped laughing, but he was still half laughing. Z questioned his friend, who was merely grinning, now that I think about it. How old are you now, Zyke? Zyke grinned cheekily and said, well, in a few days, I'm turning 1 Googleplex and 1. The highest number to date is a Googleplex, which is a 1 followed by 100 zeros, for those who are unaware. While everyone else was perplexed, those who did know how old that was paled in comparison to the enormous number. Mineta told his fellow pervert, dude, that's like the highest number there is. Kaminari questioned, I don't get it, what's so special about that? An envious mountain lady said, really, how do you look so young despite that? And Midnight nodded. Good genes and enough magic in your body to kick a wizard's ass 6 ways from Sunday, said Zyke. Z remarked, wow, your birthday isn't that far away. Yeah, I'm not shocked you lost track considering how much work we're both doing, so don't worry, Zyke waved. I'm getting older, but that's also true for my real self, who turns 19 on the 18th. Let's see who can figure out the math. Zyke said, anyway, good luck with Luigi here, would have been bigger on the year of Luigi, before disappearing, leaving the audience perplexed. Katsuki questioned, what the hell did he mean by that? Oh, it has something to do with this world, which Gloucester will explain, do enjoy, Z replied, departing as the world began. A huge mansion on top of a hill was shown during a gloomy, narrative night, with rain cascading down like a waterfall. A distant thunderclap signaled the approach of what seemed to be a small figure to the front door. The person's whole arm was trembling as the white-gloved hand rose to the doorknob. However, after a violent shock, the figure grasped the doorknob and cautiously opened it to enter. A different view of the figure opening the door, who was both familiar and unfamiliar, was displayed inside. He was nearly 7 feet tall, wearing brown boots, white gloves, a green long-sleeve shirt, and blue overalls. He had large, bushy mustache, large, fearful blue eyes, and a green cap with a white L on the front. Ochako exclaimed, whoa, it's Deku. Why does he look like that? Koda inquired, perplexed by his hero's ridiculous appearance. Toru remarked, and that mustache, it looks so weird on him. Katsuki resisted the urge to make fun of him by asking, why's there a L on his hat? Gloucester remarked, that's for his name. His name begins with a L, Inko inquired, intrigued. Yes, Gloucester shrugged, but it should be explained soon. His whole body trembled as he peered inside and saw darkness, which caused him to begin clattering his teeth. Despite his reluctance, he took out a flashlight and turned it on. Hello? He said in a terrified Italian accent. What's with him getting a different accent in almost all these worlds? Kendo inquired. Maybe it's a different world thing, where subtle changes are done. Momo speculated. Gloucester's statement, you're half right, but that kind of information is too much to say for this world, only served to elicit further inquiries. He stepped further inside, and as the door closed behind him, he jumped a little and worriedly waved his flashlight everywhere. With 2 staircases leading up 1 floor, a chandelier, and additional double doors, the entire entrance was enormous. He turned around to leave because it was cold, he was afraid, and he was unsure of what to do. He yelled in terror, it's stuck, but the door was locked and would not move no matter how hard he pulled. Oh no, is he going to be okay? Eri inquired. Don't worry, if Midoriya has taught us anything, it's that he never gives up, All Might grinned. Ha 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 ha. The man looked around, pale at the sight of an orange mist floating in the air with a key in its center, and the faint sound of laughter made his blood freeze. The key landed with a cling as the man hurried out of the room, terrified that the mist was staring at him. That also frightened the group. Was that what I think it was? Inko asked, raising a trembling hand. Depends. Do you want the answer that good, or the one that'll scare you? And be warned, one of them isn't real, laughed Gloucester. But seriously, what was that? Mina asked in a trembling voice, and Inko shook her head. It'll say soon, Gloucester replied. Thinking it was a trap, the man slowly lifted the keep, but when he did so, nothing had happened. He tried it on the front door first, deciding it was the way out of the room, and groaned in dismay when he realized it wasn't the correct one. He glanced over his shoulder and tried the other doors, which they regrettably did. Oh no, he thought. Why is he scared? Shouldn't he be glad to get out of there? Lita inquired. Because whatever that was could be in any room or more of it. Going deeper in that place is like going into a villain's hideout without backup. Ectoplasm replied. The pupils comprehended, and we are now more afraid for their friend, though probably not to the same extent as he is at the moment. He began to walk lightly as he entered the new room, trembling with fear and scanning the area for threats. He was about to move forward when a fresh, translucent figure materialized directly in front of him. They had no legs, their entire body was orange, and they were making a frightening motion with their hands. R. Iya. The man cried, almost leaping out of his skin in sheer fear. Everyone exclaimed in surprise and terror, Ghost! Some even clung to one another in terror. While clinging to Melissa, David exclaimed, But that's impossible. Ghosts don't exist. Gloucester responded gravely, In your world, maybe. But in other worlds, they're as real as you or me. Now on his butt, the man retreated as the ghost approached, its eerie smile doing no good. However, the ghost began to hold their head in what seemed to be pain just as it was ready to grab him. Before he noticed an odd wind vortex over the creature's head, which led back to an even stranger sight, the man was perplexed. A short, elderly man wearing a white lab coat, black trousers, and boots was on the side. He had a red nose, swirling glasses, a silly smile that revealed only one tooth, and a nearly bald head with a little bit of hair on top. The man was most shocked to find what appeared to be a vacuum attempting to draw the ghost into his hands. Suyu cheered, He's saved, and by an old guy, apparently, said Ciro, unsure whether to be impressed or perplexed. Gran Torino remarked, He looks about my age. All Might, who was also taken aback by the man's unexpected appearance, added, Maybe older sensei. The old man was dragged along with the ghost as it attempted to fly away from the vacuum. The old man was now being pulled across the floor as they began to fly around the room until the ghost swatted him away. The old man crouched in agony as the ghost laughed and vanished. The green one from earlier approached the elderly man, fearing that he might be hurt and fall into another trap. The elderly man grinned at the green one and remarked, Oof, I sure take a lot of knocks in this line of work. As he stood up, he smiled and laughed, saying, I'm getting too old for this ghost-catching tomfoolery. The professor identified himself as Professor Egad and said, Anyway, nice to meet you. Seriously, his parents went for that? Mineta asked, struggling to contain his laughter, while others giggled at his humorous-sounding voice but not as much as at his absurd name. Eri snorted and remarked, He's funny. Najire added, It was still nice of him to save Midoriya. The professor huffed, This house. I swear it seems to have more ghosts every day. The professor turned to face the unnamed man and said, What's a young feller like you doing around here? Anywho? 3 more of the previous ghosts materialized before you could respond, and the 2 appeared overwhelmed. Like everyone else in the room, Jiro yelled, Run, at the screen in concern. The professor exclaimed, All right youngster, look lively. Follow me, post-haste, as he and the man hurried from the room. Outside, on the mansion's lawn, Egad led them to his outside base, where they sat down to converse. The professor said, All right. What's her name, sonny boy? While the other person continued to look terrified. As Luigi searched for more ghosts, he said, My name is Luigi, and I came here because my brother called for me. After the final scene, Inko finally calmed down and said, Luigi, what an odd name. Mountain Lady responded, It's still not the weirdest one he's had. Midnight hummed, So he's there for his brother. Must have been urgent, KW suggested. The professor said, Your brother huh, what's he look like? Luigi replied, Well, he dresses like me, but in red, has a bigger mustache, and is a foot shorter than I am. The professor said, Oh no, with no longer a hint of joy in his voice. What is it?" Luigi asked anxiously. May said to the group, "That can't be good. I think I saw him, but I'm afraid he was captured," said. Luigi fell silent and gazed out the window as Gad spoke. Luigi exclaimed, "I have to save him," as he bounded out of his chair and headed for the door. "Luigi, wait, you can't. It's too dangerous." The professor corrected him. From the door, Luigi yelled back at him, "But he's in danger. I gotta get him out." His eyes betrayed his intense concern. "You won't last 1 minute against those ghosts. You need the proper tools," he said. Gad said, attempting to soothe him. Power Loader speculated, "What, like the vacuum he was using before?" "Perhaps, but that didn't do much when he did use it," RG replied. When Luigi asked, "What tools?" the professor took out his vacuum and gave it to him. "This?" the professor exclaimed, grinning proudly. Although it had a different design, the vacuum was more portable than a standard vacuum. It featured a dial to adjust the settings, the current one being high, and a strap that he could wear on his back. May said, unimpressed, "Again, it's just a regular old vacuum." Luigi held the odd device in his hands and asked, "How's a vacuum gonna help me fight ghosts?" "Oh no sir, this isn't a regular vacuum. I call it the Poltergust 3000, the only vacuum designed to suck up non-living creatures," he replied. With pride, Gad said. Power Loader yelled with May, "What, where are this machine's blueprints?" "Respectively." "Nerds," was Katsuki's grunt. Luigi put the pack on and felt it out, saying, "But it didn't do much when you used it earlier. I'm not as spry as I used to be, but you my boy can use this to get those ghosts and find your brother," he replied. Luigi nodded as Gad said that. Koda and Eri cheered, "He can do it," and their cute chant caused the audience to fawn and coo. Cut to the front lawn of the mansion, where Luigi was heading back to the house when Gad waved him away. His terrified expression was captured in close-up, but he was determined to go in and save his brother no matter what. Luigi was seen approaching the mansion in a panned shot with a thunderbolt pointing down and a clear view of the surroundings. Even though it was dim, you could make out a round silhouette above the house, and you could hear spectral laughter coming from a distance. Some trembled at the laughter, hoping Luigi would survive and save his brother. A terrified Ciro asked, "Whose laugh do you think that was?" Death Arms replied, "Not a good one. I can tell you that." Nedzu tried to cheer them up by saying, "Let's just hope the next one isn't gonna scare us as bad, or at all." Knowing exactly what was going to happen next, Gloucester sighed and thought, "Oh boy. They were in for a dark ride." Z read his list and remarked, "Oh boy, this'll be rough." Gloucester concurred, looking at the list as well. "Yeah, they're not gonna like this one," he said. Kaminari was so anxious that he actually swore in front of the kids. "Shit, what is it now?" he asked. With a worried tone, Z retorted, "Well, this one is very dark, like one the darkest ones." "For now," Gloucester added. "Don't remind me." Madelay inquired, "So Eri and Koda will have to sit this one out?" Z replied, "Yes, and maybe Inko as well." Inko, Eri, and Koda had their seats turned away and their eyes and ears covered with a snap of his fingers. As the group turned pale, Z said, "Well, I gotta go. Good luck, Gloucester." Pony asked, "How dark is this, on a scale from 1 to 10? With 1 being some mild cursing and 10 being massive amounts of gore," Z said. Shortly after, the group watched with anxious looks at each other as the world began to restart. Meet the pyro. When the text abruptly disappears, black rubber boots with a fire axe in hand are seen approaching a pair of glasses in the direction of the camera while knocking a few empty bullet cartridges aside. Labara questioned, "That's not good, is it?" Blood King responded, "No, I don't believe it is," fearing what they might witness. Dreams of Cruelty starts up. Cut to a tiny space. Nearly entirely in silhouette, Sato said, "I fear no man. But that thing, it scares me," with a nervous tone in the end. Sato remarked, "Yikes, it's really harsh of me to call someone a thing." Tokiyami surmised, "It must be really frightening to you then." Cut to a view behind the right shoulder of an unidentified person. Before a blue Katsuki can enter, a blue power loader closes a door. Katsuki grips the handle frantically. Cut to the interview room once more. "No, I ain't talking about that freak. All right?" he said, revealing Katsuki in silhouette this time. He tries to remove the lavalier microphone from his shirt out of concern. In almost panic, he sits up straight in his chair. "How'd I get this fucking thing off?" Katsuki yells in rage or concern as he keeps pulling and moves toward the camera, knocking it over. "He's not here, is he?" he asks. Kaminari said, "Whoa, this must be really big for Bakugo to get scared," which caused the aforementioned classmate to growl. Shoto calmly remarked, "I think the only time I saw you scared was when you lost to Midoriya," to which he received a furious glare in return. Cut to the figure, flamethrower ready, kicking down the door into the blue team's room. Return to the interview room, this time with Red Aizawa. He stared at his lit cigarette and uttered, "One shudders to imagine what inhuman thoughts lie behind that mask." A wider view of a whole wooden town in flames is shown after Pyro fires its flamethrower. Aizawa went on, "What dreams of chronic and sustained cruelty." "Hold me," Mineta said, attempting to grab Momo in terror, but Tsuyu tongue slapped him instead. Aizawa questioned, "Who is that?" Gloucester responded, "That's this world's version of your friend," and the group fell silent. They all yelled, "What?" Lita pointed to the screen and said, "That psycho-looking fire spitter is Midoriya." Gloucester replied, "Sadly, yes." Ochako asked in great concern, "Wha? How?" Gloucester replied, "It's hard to explain, but please keep watching." A frontal view of the Pyro is shown, with a quick zoom into one of its eyepiece's dark interiors. There is a single white spot that moves forward and splits into a binocular view, along with the sound of the Pyro's breathing. It displays a psychedelic dreamscape when these are focused. "Do you think magic is real?" Starts to play, revealing charming villages, lollipops, floating cats, and colorful hills from the Pyro's perspective. In its hands, the Pyro's flamethrower takes the form of an oddly shaped brass tool that sprays the ground with a rainbow-colored mist, causing vibrant flowers to bloom from the lawn in front of him. The Pyro chuckles. Blue characters sound like babies and appear as plump little cherubs in this dreamscape. As he pointed to the screen, Katsuki exclaimed, "What the fuck is that?" Gloucester added, "Right now, you're seeing the world through his eyes." Like the others, Tomoko was looking at the screen in bewilderment when she asked, "What kind of drugs is he using?" The Pyro cheers and grabs a lollipop as a blue Sato emerges and bounces on the ground. The two appear to be happy as they converge. The scene shifts to the battle as the Pyro strikes Sato with the fire axe after shoving the lollipop into his mouth in the dreamscape. At the sight, Sato instantly passed out, and the others did not fare well. After bouncing around, a blue Katsuki eventually lands on the Pyro's instrument. In the battle, the Pyro uses the scorch shot to knock the Katsuki back after blowing bubbles in his face in its vision. When Katsuki saw Deku, freaking Deku, attempt to kill him so easily, his face was filled with shock, open mouth, and wide eyes. The Pyro shuts the box on him after a blue recovery girl emerges from it in the dreamscape. In actuality, Pyro uses its axe to barricade the door of a shed, trapping the blue recovery girl inside. The poor healer screamed, "No," as she attempted to break free. In the dreamscape, the Pyro keeps shooting streams of rainbow mist from its weapon while engulfing the shed and RG in flames. The balloonicorn emerges as he goes by, and Aizawa and the blue power loader mount it. The Pyro is greeted and honored by the blue cherubs. Return to the real world. "I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight," a pale Mina and a trembling Toru said as RG lay on the ground. "I'm burning." A piece of a blue power loader's destroyed sentry is seen flying off into the distance and striking a blue Kirishima. A blue maid plummets to the ground from a second-story window as Katsuki runs away. She crawls over to someone nearby and grabs their ankle. In the distance, there is the sound of a teleporter and a dispenser being destroyed. "Dispenser down!" yelled the mechanic. After witnessing his own death on a regular basis, this one being the worst, Powerloader was certain that he would require some therapy. Unaware of who it was, the blue May was clutching the Pyro's ankle. "Help!" she yelled, expecting assistance, but received none at all. Glancing down, the Pyro fires its flamethrower. As the view focuses on the Pyro's mask, May can be heard yelling. The Pyro tilts its head, and flames reflect off the eyepieces. May prayed to all the gods that she would never, ever encounter this version of Midoriya, even though she still liked him in her world. Music plays as the final title card appears. Return to the dreamscape and see the Pyro strolling contentedly into the sunset. The image pans out and goes through the charred, wide-open hole in blue Kirishima's abdomen. As Kirishima briefly clutches his smoldering innards before collapsing with a suppressed moan, the scene returns to reality. Whistling, "Do you believe in magic?" The Pyro keeps moving into the sunset. The streets are strewn with burned blue corpses as the town starts to crumble under the fire. Turn black. Kirishima gripped his stomach, where the hold on the video was, and said, "Sweet mercy, I'm going to be sick." With genuine nausea, All Might questioned, what's happened to him to make him like that? That's the thing, no one really knows where he came from or why he acts like that, not even the world's creators. All we do know is that to him, fire looks like rainbows and bubbles. Gloster replied, unsure of what to say. All Might advised his fellow hero to dose the fire endeavor when he did visit. The man simply complained, but if he wanted to live past 50, he had to agree after seeing that.
So this was the end of the series. I hope you enjoyed it. To watch more series like this, subscribe to my channel. Till then, bye bye.